I'm going to demonstrate a stitch pattern that I call double stockinette brioche. It is a stockinette based fabric, so knit on one side, purl on the other side, that combines a brioche technique with it. I've done it in two colors here using a bulky roving type yarn which contributes to the texture. Stockinette fabric on one side that is non-rolling, so if you're looking for a non-rolling type of stockinette, this might be a good choice. Like I said, it looks like stockinette on one side. Here it creates, by using two colors, it creates vertical striping. But on the second side of the fabric, I won't call it a wrong side because I think the second side is equally beautiful. The second side of this fabric creates a lovely textured woven effect here. I think it's as attractive as the other side of the fabric there. This stitch pattern would be great for two-sided items like scarves and cowls, and it would be really cool in a Mobius technique, I think, because both patterns would show in the final piece. One thing about any brioche technique, really, this one as well, is that the fabric will spread horizontally. So I've cast on here 13 stitches. And I've actually done a provisional cast on with waste yarn for this reason. It's very difficult to cast on loose enough in this stitch pattern to create a cast on that won't draw in the end of your scarf. So I've done a provisional cast on in this case with some waste yarn, and when I'm done with my piece, I'm either going to graft these stitches by pulling out the cast on waste yarn and graft these live stitches at the end to my stitches at the beginning, or I'm going to simply do a sewn bind off here if I just want to make a plain scarf. So I'll do a sewn bind off so that I can control the stretch of the end stitches here. Otherwise, a standard cast on like a long tail or knitted or a cable cast on would be very difficult to keep that cast on from pulling in the end, just because the stitch pattern creates such a horizontal spread in the fabric. This bulky yarn, you can see, is about 2 stitches per inch in this stitch pattern, so it works up very quickly. It's another advantage of this. I've worked the stitch pattern over an odd number of stitches. It could be worked over any number of stitches. The advantage of an odd number is that if I'm working in 2 colors, that gives me an opportunity to create a solid color border on each side of my work, which I just find attractive. And I'm actually going to just keep those stitches on both ends in stockinette stitch and work them only with the main color. In this case, pink is the main color. So let's get started. I've kind of worked a few rows already, but I want to show you the stitch pattern. If I'm working a main color row, that would be the pink in my case, I'm going to start by just knitting this first selvage stitch. I'm a continental knitter, so I'll show you that technique, and then I'll switch over to my throwing technique so I can show you that as well. Now, when I come to an orange stitch here, I can't work that with my pink yarn. If I did, I would have a pink stitch now in my column of knit orange stitches, and that's going to break up my pattern. I could, if I was just doing a straight mosaic pattern, simply slip this orange stitch purlwise and carry my working yarn along the back till I got to my next pink stitch. But if I do that, that just creates a straight float across the bottom and across the back of the work, and I don't get this lovely woven effect on the back. So the way to achieve that woven effect is to, in fact, tuck the pink yarn over the top of my orange stitch by doing a yarn over at the same time. So I've knit my selvage stitch. I'm going to bring my working yarn to the front of my work here. I'm going to slip the orange stitch purlwise to the right needle without working it, and take my pink yarn over the top of my right needle as if I'm doing a yarn over. And that's going to, in essence, tuck that pink yarn out of the way so that it doesn't create a float on the back side of the work, nor does it show up on the front side of the work. Now my next stitch is in the pink column, so I'm going to work that stitch, and I'm just going to knit it together with the 2 yarn overs that were created when I worked the orange row previously. So I'm just going to knit those together. It's essentially a knit 3 together. It reads in the pattern as a bark, a brioche knit +1, because a normal brioche knit would be to knit the stitch in its accompanying yarn over. I've added another yarn over in the previous row, so I have a bark +1. Now I'm going to bring the yarn forward again because I'm going to slip my orange stitch. So yarn forward, slip one, yarn over, and I'm back to another bark plus one there. And I'm going to continue across the row working that way. I'm going to switch hands now just so you can see what it looks like if you are a right-handed thrower. So I'm ready to slip my orange stitch. I'm going to bring the yarn forward, slip the stitch, and then I just can go ahead and bark my next pink stitch plus its 2 orange yarn overs from previous rows. And as I knit those together, the working yarn is going to naturally go to the back of the work, creating that yarn over the right needle. So I don't really have to do much extra there. Yarn forward so I can slip my stitch, create the yarn over, and when I bark, the yarn will go to the back of the needle, creating that yarn over. And I'm going to yarn forward, slip one, yarn to the back, and I'm going to bark plus one there. Just continue to work across the row in this method. Yarn forward, slip one, yarn over, and I get to my last selvage stitch. I'm just going to knit it plainly since it's my selvage stitch there. So that's completed my row, and you can see for each orange stitch that was slipped, there is a pink yarn over accompanying it. And then each of the pink stitches, pink row here, is just a plain knit stitch now on the needle. Okay, I'm ready to turn, and I'm going to work back. In a standard stockinette brioche, at this point you would not turn, you would slide your stitches to the other side of the needle and work back in the orange. But in this case, I'm going to work 2 rows in each color, so I'm ready to work back now with my pink stitch here. Get myself some yarn here to work with. There we go. Okay, my selvage stitch here, I'm just going to purl because that selvage stitch stays in the plain stockinette. Knit on the front side and purl on the back side. Now I'm ready to slip my orange stitch again. There it is with the yarn over, the pink yarn over from the previous row. I'm just going to slip the stitch in the yarn over from the previous row and create a new yarn over. So now I've got 2 yarn overs there. Bring the yarn to the front and purl the pink stitch. And again, it's stockinette brioche, so it's going to be knit on the front side and purl on the second side, side 2. I hate calling this the wrong side of the work because it's so pretty. Again, slip my orange stitch and the pink yarn over from the previous row, take the yarn over the needle, the right needle, bring it back to the front, ready to purl the pink stitch. One more time, slip, bring the yarn over the right hand needle, back to the front, ready to purl, and just continue that way across the rest of the row. There you have it. And I'll finish up by purling the last selvage stitch there. And now I'm going to turn my work and pick up my contrast color, in this case the orange. And I'm going to slip this first pink stitch. It's not going to get worked at all. That way I can keep this pink column as a solid color there. I don't have to worry about wrapping the orange around the edge or anything. Now I'm ready to knit my orange column stitches here that were slipped on the previous 2 rows, and I'm just going to knit them together with the 2 pink yarn overs. So again, I'm going to bark plus 1. That's how that's abbreviated in the pattern. Now bring the yarn forward, and I'm going to slip this pink stitch because again, if I were to work the pink stitch, I would have interrupted my column of pink stitches here. So with the orange. So I want to keep it as a solid pink column here. I've got to slip that pink stitch, take the working yarn over the back of the needle, create the yarn over, bring it back, leave it in the back, and bark plus 1 the next orange stitch together. Yarn forward, slip 1 yarn over, bark plus 1. I'll switch hands again so you can see that. Yarn forward, slip 1, yarn over, bark plus 1. This is a bit awkward for me to do it right-handed. Yarn forward, slip 1, yarn over the needle as I bark plus 1 those together. Yarn forward, slip 1, yarn goes over the needle as I bark plus 1 those together, and I'm just going to slip this last pink stitch, not going to work it at all. And again, that's just what I do for the selvage there. I'm going to turn my work and work back. And again, because it's stockinette, I'm going to be purling on this row. I'll try to do this right-handed, just so you can have an opportunity to see what that looks like. So I'm going to slip my pink stitch. Now I'm ready to purl the orange stitches. So I'm just going to purl one there. Now with the yarn in front, I'm going to take the yarn, I'm going to slip my pink stitch purlwise with the yarn over I made on the previous row, and I'm going to take the yarn over the needle, the working yarn over the right needle, back to the front, ready to purl one. Slip the pink stitch plus its yarn over from the previous row, yarn over the needle, ready to come back and purl one. Slip, yarn over, yarn forward, purl one. Slip one, yarn over, purl one, yarn forward, purl one. I'm just going to continue to work that way across the row, finishing my last purl one, and the pink stitch just gets slipped without having anything to work the selvage stitch. That's all there is to it. And you can see that it creates this lovely, very thick, squishy fabric, which is very warm because it's got all these air pockets in it to trap in the warm air, and a lovely two-sided effect. So this is one side, and then the other side is the striped fabric, and this is the stitch pattern that I use in the Esprit de Corps cowl.